And so for me personally, I find a lot of struggle in the fact that you have to separate yourself from most people. You have to separate yourself from the masses. You have to separate yourself from family, from people you consider your friends. And in this comes a lot of trouble at first because you realize that not everyone has that same mindset as you. Not everyone has that same upholding of values that you do. And so surrounding yourself with them, you find yourself unfamiliarized. You find yourself just not feeling the same anymore, almost wasting time when you're with them. And so it's kind of this, at first, depressing feeling. Like it feels very negative. But over time, you realize that it's not your fault, it's theirs. That if your close friends, your close family members don't want to live a higher value life full of the more extravagant things, then you can't control that. And you just have to accept that for what it is, that them as individuals will never reach their full potential or never try to at least. And as well as when you're young and innovative, you're going to be looked down upon by many people, by close people, by people you don't know. The first thing they're going to do is target you because they're insecure about how they feel and they're insecure about what they're doing with their own life. One of the first things I realized when I started working out was how many people told me that they couldn't do that, wouldn't do that, and as well as being called a gym rat or, you know, jokes being made about me not wanting to eat carbs because I was trying to cut at a time, or eating a lot of the same food so that I could bulk correctly. And so for me, I'm completely fine with it because as you grow and as you become a greater person, for me, in instance, a greater man, the more greater you become, the more you are dealt with. I think people have this thought process of things get easier with the better you become and the greater you become. It's actually the opposite. Things get harder. You're given more on your plate. But as you get older and grow to become better, you're able to handle these things more. You're able to kind of realize what's most important, what's least important, how to dish things out, and how to really maintain your priorities. So for me, I'm completely fine with the slander that comes for being great because it's just the beginning, to be honest. And I haven't even gotten to the part yet where I'm getting angry comments online. So kind of excited for that. But for the most part, being young and innovative is quite the process and it's quite the journey. I've come across so many instances where I question everything I do and I look back on what I have done and what I haven't done and think to myself, where am I supposed to be? You know, for the time I put into my journey, where's the right place, you know? Am I far enough? Am I not far enough? Am I exactly where I need to be? And it's a question that really can't be answered, to be honest, because everything is based on your input, right? Whatever you put in is what you get out. And it's a really questionable circumstance when you try to understand, where am I supposed to be in life? You know, am I even doing the right thing? Am I even supposed to be pursuing this? Is this my actual purpose? But I believe God gives us these dreams and these visions for a reason. I'll always believe that. And I'm completely fine with things being tough and things being hard, because the more difficult things are, the more grateful and appreciative you are for when you succeed through them. And I don't think ever in my life I've ever regretted doing something difficult, and I don't think anybody really has ever. Nothing has ever been hard or difficult and you look back on it and think that you shouldn't have done it. Every time you do something that's difficult to do, you always think that I should have done that and it was the right thing to do, and it made me a stronger, better, smarter, more courageous and fearless person. And so for me, I constantly question what's the next step, kind of forgetting sometimes the step that I'm on right now. And when you're so much worried about the next step and not your current step, you get stuck and you get angry and you get bitter. As well as just the fact that things aren't always what they seem to be at times. Being a young and innovative person, you struggle with the fact that there aren't people like you in a way. there's multiple there's multiple traits of people that have the high value mindset, the people that consider themselves to be different. And I believe the biggest entrepreneurs have these few traits, and one of them is a narcissistic personality, as well as not feeling like things are coming to you as fast as possible. And I believe one of the things that I have to learn myself is delayed gratification. And I find myself in quite the placement in my life, not knowing if everything that I'm doing, if I'm doing it the exact way I should be doing it. I always find myself thinking maybe I should be doing it differently. Maybe I should restart, try again, you know? And I'm leaving a lot on the table if I were to do that. It's really just a question of how much you believe in yourself when it comes to these type of things. I think we constantly question ourselves because we get that kick of reality, whereas this is not comfortable, this is not stable, this is not what's considered normal. But to be honest, I don't want what's considered normal. I mean, whatever a retirement, a 401k is, and everything that involves that spectrum, I mean, that's cool and all, but I don't care for it much. I'd rather die tomorrow knowing that I tried my best doing what I wanted to do, trying to change, motivate, and inspire lives, than working under somebody else's greatness. So, in my personal belief, when you're working a specific type of job, a normal job, I guess you could say, you're working under something that somebody else built. You're at the bottom of their pyramid, and of course they're at the top, and you're just part of their empire. And you're not even really a high part unless you've been there for 20, 25 years. For me personally, I'd rather build my own empire, and in that takes a lot of grit, a lot of pain, a lot of weight on my shoulders. But a long time ago, I prayed to God and I asked him, and I said to God, I want all the pain, I want all the struggle, I want all the stress, because there's only two things that can happen from all this. I could crack under the pressure and come back out stronger and learn, or I could lift the weight and realize that I was stronger than I ever thought I was. And so living this young and virtuous life, you find yourself having to spend a lot of time by yourself in order to grow, having to reflect and learn about who you are and who you can be, and creating a specialized routine that really builds you up, not tearing you down. My routine is very important to me, and my routine allows me to constantly grow slowly, constantly move forward. Longer work hours, better eating habits, earlier wake-up times, earlier bedtimes, and making sure that my time is important to me. One of the most important things that I've learned that people who are all older and wiser will always tell you is prioritize your time correctly and do not waste it, because time is the only thing you can't get back in life, and time is the only thing, including love, that you cannot buy. So for me, I really try to prioritize who I spend my time with and why I'm spending my time with them. Now, I love to give back, and I feel like as a man, it's my job to give back, to motivate, to inspire, and to move people in ways that they can't be moved themselves. I feel like everything is based off of inspiration. Everything I do is because I was inspired by somebody else, and everything that we all do, anything that was created, any invention, any business, it was all because of an inspiration. And so I feel as if one of the greatest things that I could achieve in my life is for someone to look at me and say, you, Nate, were my inspiration to why I did this. You inspired me to start this. And I feel like there's nothing more greater than that feeling of knowing that you are the reason somebody else became great and changed their life for the better. So for me personally, I wouldn't give this life back for anything else. This life is not easy though, in any way possible. But it's one of those things where it's not easy now so that it could be simpler later. Not easier later, but simpler later. Whereas people who live in the gluttonous world of drinking, of doing drugs, of falling to pleasurable addictions, find their life to be maybe easier or simpler now, but more painful later on, and definitely what I consider to be a waste of potential. One of the biggest things about being young and innovative, though, is the naysayers. There's always going to be somebody that tells you need a plan B, that tells you that what you're doing might not be suitable, what you're doing might not even be possible. But to be honest, in my opinion, and excuse my language, but fuck that. I mean, really, you have people like Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk that have completely changed the way that life exists. I mean, just through Amazon alone, we operate our lives consistently through this. I mean, how many times do you see an Amazon van driving down the street? It's insane, actually. And so for me to think that a man has accomplished that from nothing to something it makes it possible for me. And I'm not looking for Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos status at all whatsoever. I'd be completely grateful and satisfied with 10% of that. And so if I'm looking for just 10% of that, I think that's completely possible. And by 10% of that, I mean in the area of wealth, success, and influence. And at the end of the day, what we're really all trying to do, us young, innovative people, is build a concrete mental and to enlighten ourselves and living life to the absolute fullest, leaving our mark. I like to call it being a name, not a statistic. So an example of this would be, let's say, and this is a little bit dark, but I mean, it's just an example. There's a bridge with 5,000 people on it. Bridge explodes. Leonardo DiCaprio was on that bridge. First thing you hear in the news, 5,000 people died on a bridge, including Leonardo DiCaprio. Now, that would make Leonardo DiCaprio a name, not a statistic. Whereas for me personally, I want to be a name and not a number. So, in the worst case scenario, I guess you could say, if I'm on a bridge and the bridge goes down and the news the next day is announcing 5,000 people died, including Nathaniel Figueroa. And that to me just means that I've left an influence on the world. I've left some sort of positive mark. And of course, you're always going to doubt yourself. You're always going to doubt what you do. And it's always just the enemy talking. The enemy is always going to have something to say. The enemy is always going to try to hold you back from pursuing what it is that you feel like you love, you do. And one of the things in the Bible that it says is that when you overcome evil, when you overcome the devil, when you overcome the enemy, the angels rejoice. When you can laugh in the face of pain, that is the Holy Spirit right through you. That is God's will. And I would like to think that it makes God smile. And if I could make God smile, then I think I can make the world smile too. So, my end goal, being unspecifically, is to motivate and inspire others and to be a better man. A lot of my content and things that I make, I wouldn't say it's specifically for young men or older men, but I would like to say it's definitely targeted towards men in general more so than women. But I think that there are women out there that could take the advice that I give out, or at least the experiences that I had to give, and use that to their advantage. Now, I could never tell a woman how to live, but as a young man who is a man of faith and a man of God, and just someone who strives to be the best they possibly can, saying this mostly to other young men, is that you have to be able to provide for the people you love and people you care about. And you have to be able to set yourself in a point where you're unbreakable, where you don't go down, and no matter how badly you do get beaten, you know, you can never stay beaten and bruised, you know. I would like to think that I'm trying to make that of myself, to be invincible, to be unbreakable. And of course, it's not possible without God, but also not possible without trying my very best, without being in the gym at 4 a.m., without reading books and attaining more knowledge based on history and based on lives other people have lived, so I can learn and live through their experiences. It won't happen without working diligently and pursuing my passion. I mean, one of the most important things to me is, how can I tell my kids one day to chase their dreams and I never chased mine, or I gave up on mine? Now, I understand a lot of people have different circumstances in life. When you have a kid, things can become difficult. I don't have kids. I don't have a wife. And obviously, I'm not ready for one right now. But when the time comes down to it, when the day comes down to it, I want to be able to not have to say things to my family, but simply from my actions and from what I've done, they can look at me and be an example of greatness, of achievement, of success, of diligence, of consistency, of discipline, of faith, of fearlessness, and of courage. I don't like to tell people things I'm going to do. I don't like to tell people what to do. I like to let my actions speak for themselves, and that's how you should live life, letting your actions speak for themselves. Because if you look at people's actions and not their words, most people don't do the things they say they're going to do, and don't do things that would even be considered positive. So for me, I like to live through positive action and let others see what I do and take that and understand the type of man that I am. So going back to just being young and innovative, there's just so many things that I would like to achieve in this world, and understanding that with time they all come. I have a really difficult time with delayed gratification, understanding that things don't come next day, they don't come tomorrow, they won't come next week, they won't come next month, but within due time they will come. I have a really hard time with that, very, very hard time with that, but patience is a skill, and I'm trying my best to work at that skill. And for other young and innovative people that are like me, that are out there in this world trying to do their best to change the world to their vision and to what they deem to be greatness, I want you to know that you're never alone in this journey. You can do whatever you choose to do in this world, that dreams are dreams for a reason, your passion is your passion for a reason, that anything is possible, and you could always find your place in this world no matter what, as long as you stick by faith, by discipline, and just being fearless. To be honest, everything is always just being fearless, and if not being fearless, then being courageous, because being courageous is doing things while fearing them, and it's actually my favorite word. So for me, and I feel like what's next in my journey, if I could predict it, would be to lock in more of my discipline, to even be more productive if I can, and to separate myself from the masses even more. Really consolidating myself into full-on productivity, and trying to understand myself more, and understand how this world works more, and finding out where what I do fits in the line of finance and being able to make a living doing what I love. Now, I find most that my passion lies in discipline. I really do enjoy pushing myself and seeing others push themselves. It's a very, very satisfying feeling, as well as, nothing is, in my personal opinion, more fulfilling than pushing past that percentage that you use yourself at. Anytime you get to that feeling of like being ready to quit, and then not quitting, but actually going further, that to me is one of the most amazing feelings ever in my life. That will beat any high, any drunk, that will beat any type of drug that there is in this world. It will beat anything. Just being able to push yourself to the very furthest that you can, past the pain, past the hurt, past the mental blocks, past the walls that the enemy puts in front of you. Being young and pursuing these challenges is not easy at all, and it's not for the weak. It's really not, And the funniest thing is that I see potential in so many people, but they choose not to do what they love because they've been taught by society, by the people around them, they have to limit themselves. By their parents even. Your parents can even be a reason that you don't push yourself to be the best version of yourself. Your parents are supposed to be the ones that tell you to do whatever it is you love and do it to the fullest extent. And even your parents should be the ones that tell you what you're doing is not realistic. And that's scary because that means that your own blood can be your own enemy. It's insane, really. And so, for me, I try to only listen to God's word and not listen to my heart, but listen to my brain. Your emotions can cloud you. And being young and being passionate about something so great, you have to understand that your heart will try to trick you. You know, love and lust and these things, they will confuse you so much and leave you so contradicted. Whereas your brain, your logic always knows what's correct, and your brain will always lead you in the right direction if you use it correctly. So for me personally, I'm not one for the emotion path. I'm one for the logic path and what works and what doesn't work and what will work and what won't work. So to kind of wrap everything up in the best way possible, it's really just the fact that being young and innovative is a struggle. It's difficult. It's not easy. You're going to doubt yourself every single day. You're going to question everything you do all the time. Everything is always a battle. Everything's always a war. But I would not want to live any other type of way. I would not want to sit back and work under somebody else's greatness for 25, 30 years being miserable. I would not want to do anything that hinders me for when I'm 85 that I just regret my entire life. I would rather live my life every day at a risk of being broke, of losing people in my life because I decided to do something great instead of settling for less. I would rather know that I inspired one person before I died than having to live forever and inspired none. So at the end of the day, really, this life is for me, and I indulge it fully. And I promise to God, and I promise to my future kids and wife and to my own soul that I'll never give up. I'll never stop doing what I love, and I'll always pursue it to the fullest extent. Even in the times where I doubt myself, even in the weeks where I don't feel like working and I don't feel like doing anything, in the times where I feel like things are impossible, or the times where I want to give up and do something that's just more easier and simple. No matter what happens in my life and no matter what I go through and no matter what challenges come arise, me, myself, Nate Figueroa, the 21-year-old version of me, is never going to give up. And I hope and pray that the 22-year-old version of me, the 23-year-old version of me, the 30-year-old version of me has the same mindset, but even better. Because I really feel like I could change this world for the better. And if not change the entire world, at least change a couple lives.